Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. Liverpool are taking on Everton at Anfield on Friday night in the FA Cup in a game that I am absolutely massively excited for. I mean, it feels perfect. It feels like the perfect game that you should be absolutely fired up for. You know, it's a Merseyside derby, it's under the lights, it's a night game, and it's in the FA Cup, and it's on a Friday night as well. So there is nothing to stop you from being excited for this game. Apart from the fact that Phil Coutinho wants to leave the club. But to be honest, this is a lovely opportunity for us to all forget about Phil Coutinho, forget about the transfer window altogether, and just focus on what Liverpool are actually doing on the pitch. And when you think about it, most of that has actually been really good. With all the transfer talk, all the rubbish about Phil Coutinho, Liverpool have actually been incredibly good over the last month or so at actually playing football on the football pitch. And I mean, I'm just hugely excited for this game as well because, you know, with 9 days between this game and the one against Man City, Jurgen Klopp finally has the opportunity to kind of cast off the reins of rotation a little bit and kind of put out something that is a lot closer to what he thinks is Liverpool's absolute best side. I still think with the game against Burnley having only been played on Monday, there will still be players who are too fatigued to play in this game, but he can be a little bit less worried about players picking up injuries as they will have a nice big rest between now and the Manchester City game in the league on the Sunday afterwards. And also, personally, I think the FA Cup is an absolutely fantastic chance for Liverpool to finally get their hands on some silverware and end their 6-year wait for a trophy this season. Because, I mean, out of all the competitions we're still in, we're obviously out of the League Cup, went out of that very early on in the third round, still in the Champions League, but that would be a huge ask for Liverpool to win it, although we have still got every chance of doing so. The Premier League looks absolutely dead and buried with Man City having stormed ahead. However, this feels like a Liverpool team that is now capable of winning trophies. It feels like a side that's matured from where Jurgen Klopp started off and when we missed out on those 2 finals during his first season as manager. You know, the players have grown up a little bit. They've sort of gelled a little bit more together. We've got Mohamed Salah in there as well and players like Sadio Mane, Virgil Van Dijk further down the line in the season as well. It just feels like this is a great opportunity for Liverpool to finally go for some silverware and actually win it. And while obviously, like I said, the Champions League and the Premier League will start to get in the way later on in the season, with this early stage in the tournament, why not just absolutely go for it and try our best to win or at least progress in the FA Cup. So the team news going into the game, there is of course no Phil Coutinho because he has got a thigh strain, i.e. he's going on strike because once again he thinks refusing to play during a transfer window is actually going to force through a move to Barcelona. Personally, I think it's now highly likely that he'll move in the summer. It's possible that he could go during this window because Jurgen Klopp will not really want to be keeping Phil Coutinho around. We know that Klopp tried to actually bin off Phil Coutinho in the summer only for FSG to block the move and say, no, we're standing firm on our stance that the player is not for sale, so it's possible that he could go, but that's all by the by now. Coutinho not available for this game. Mane and Salah are also doubts because they are at the African Football Awards the night before. Jurgen Klopp has allowed them to go away for that 24 hours before the game, and then they will be flown back on private jet. Mane should still be okay for this game, but Mo Salah has a groin problem, so it's possible that he will, you know, certainly not be in the starting 11. He'll potentially make the bench, but I certainly doubt he'll figure hugely in this game. And elsewhere with injury news, Virgil Van Dijk, Liverpool's brand new centre-back, was in full first team training this evening with the rest of the squad in the preparations for the game against Everton. You know, I still think it's unlikely that he's actually going to start this game, but that suggests that maybe Jurgen Klopp might just put him on the bench and think about unveiling him to the Anfield crowd later on during the game. So as for how I think we're actually going to line up, I think we're going to go for Karius in goal. Jurgen Klopp hasn't done his press conference yet at the time of recording this video. Normally, he will confirm who starts in goal for the game. I think there might have been a shout for Danny Ward, but I'm pretty sure he is still injured. And I think Karius, you know, he needs a little bit of extra game time. He started to actually look okay. He had a good performance against West Brom. So I think Jurgen Klopp will go for him over Mignolet to give him that extra playing time between now and when the Champions League season starts up again. So Karius in goal. Then I think the centre-back pairing is going to be Matip and Klavan, simply because out of the 3 that have been starting, you know, Matip, Klavan and Lovren has started over the last 2 games, whereas both Matip and Klavan have only played 1 of them each. So it makes sense that those 2 will be the ones who are the pairing for this game. And You know, they're kind of all on an equal footing at the moment. There's no clear winner. There's no clear two centre-backs which are the best, and then the third one which is going to be third choice. They're all on a fairly equal footing, so it makes sense to kind of rotate them a little bit, especially with Virgil van Dijk coming into the side on the horizon. I think Jurgen Klopp will want to have a proper look at all of his centre-back options to decide who is going to partner Van Dijk in the long term. So I think it's going to be those two at centre-back. Then I think it's going to be Alexander-Arnold and Andrew Robertson in the full-back positions. Robertson obviously rested against Burnley after having a lot of responsibility placed on his shoulders through Alberto Moreno's injury, so I think he'll be fit and ready for this game. And then I think Alexander-Arnold, you know, in a cup tie, I just feel like we might want to rest Gomez for a little bit. He's had a lot of responsibility placed on his shoulders as well, and we're probably going to do quite a lot of attacking, and I think it's quite nice to have a Scouser in the squad as well for a Merseyside derby. And then the midfield, this is where I think it gets quite tricky, because I was thinking that Liverpool might go for Milner, Jan and Wijnaldum, because those are the three midfielders that are probably the best of what we've got available at the moment. But that's kind of a workman-like midfield, and against a Sam Allardyce team who are going to sit back, you need a bit more creativity. You need someone who's going to be a bit more direct. So I get the feeling that Jurgen Klopp's going to rotate a little bit. I'm not entirely sure how he'd go about it. There's a possibility that he could draw Ox back into the midfield, but I reckon Oxlade-Chamberlain is going to be in the front three for this match. There's a possibility that he could also put Woodburn in there. You know, we've seen him play a central midfield kind of role earlier on in the season and during pre-season and for the under-23s as well. Personally, I get the feeling he might actually go for Grujic. So I think it's going to be Grujic, Milner and Wijnaldum in midfield, because I really want to see Grujic. He hasn't really kicked on that much this season. Simply hasn't got as many opportunities as he did last season, and you know, he's a player with a lot of potential, and I feel like he needs to get his chance at Liverpool sooner or later. And if he's not getting his chance in the FA Cup third round, it's highly unlikely that he's ever going to start a game between now and the end of the season. So I reckon we're going to go Grujic, Milner and Wijnaldum in midfield. And then I think the front three is going to be Mane straight off of the private jet, coupled with Firmino and then Oxlade-Chamberlain on the other side. Because, you know, we're probably not going to play Salah, but I think if you're not going to have Salah and you're not going to have Coutinho, you might as well risk Sadio Mane, because just having one of the Fab Four in a cup tie against Everton just feels a little bit weak. And we saw what happened earlier on in the season when Liverpool dropped Firmino and Coutinho for the Merseyside derby. We just didn't play to the best of our ability. We weren't taking our chances. We weren't creating as many chances either. So I think you just want that extra bit of quality by having both Mane and Firmino on the pitch, and then Oxlade-Chamberlain as well. You know, he's been performing very, very well in his recent games, and he fully deserves a place in the starting 11 for this match. So Everton then, they've taken their foot off of the gas a little bit over the last few games. You know, they've had some poor results. They've lost their last two games. They seem to have just given up scoring goals altogether. They've only got one over their last 4 games, which is pretty pathetic. Let's be honest, they've had 2 draws and 2 losses over those last 4 games as well, and generally they've been pretty poo. It feels like the Allardyce bubble might be bursting already, and I think this is a good thing for Liverpool, because it means that Allardyce is going to have to shift his focus back onto the league, whereas if Everton had continued what had been a pretty impressive start under Sam Allardyce, they might be in a slightly rosier position at this point, and Allardyce might have been able to divert a little bit of attention over to the cup competitions. But I just think his main prerogative is to keep Everton in the Premier League and get a good finish for them in the Premier League as well. And while I'm sure he'd love to win silverware, because every manager does, and I'm pretty sure he hasn't actually won any major silverware at any point over his career, and Everton represents probably one of the best opportunities he will ever have to do so. I just think his focus will always be on the league, and therefore I doubt that Everton are really going to show up for this game. So I reckon Liverpool have got a huge chance of winning this game. You know, it almost feels not like a free hit, but like probably one of the better opportunities we're going to have to beat Everton, especially when they're being managed by Sam Allardyce. You know, we're probably going to see a lot more of the kind of frustrating games we had at Anfield earlier on in the season while Allardyce is still the Everton manager, and I feel like this is one of our better opportunities to actually beat his Everton side in front of that Anfield crowd. So here are my 3 reasons why I think Liverpool will beat Everton. First of all, like I said, I don't think Everton are really going to want to go for the FA Cup this season, and as I said at the top of the video, I think the FA Cup represents a fantastic opportunity for silverware for Liverpool this season, and I think Jurgen Klopp will certainly see it that way as well, because especially going into the long term, winning trophies is one of the main ways in which you attract players. Obviously, having a fantastic manager like Jurgen Klopp helps. Having Champions League football as well helps. All players want to play for a great manager, and they want to play in Europe's top competition, but it just helps to have that silverware to back it up as well. You know, it helps to attract players. It helps to keep hold of the players you've got as well, because players will always look back on their career and judge it by the amount of medals that they've won, really. And players will want to come to a club where they feel like they have the opportunity to win trophies. You know, whenever a player signs for Liverpool, one of the first things they say is that they want to help Liverpool win trophies in the near future while they're at the club. So I think Jurgen Klopp will be very mindful of that. He will want to win this game and he will want to progress in the FA Cup, especially because, you know, in the past under Jurgen Klopp, we've never really done that well in the FA Cup, and this is probably our best opportunity to do so, as we aren't in the League Cup semi-finals. And on the flip side, I just honestly don't think Allardyce is going to be that bothered. Obviously, he won't want to lose the game, especially not against Everton's biggest rivals, but I feel like he will care a little bit less than he did when he set them up so horrifically defensively at Anfield earlier on in the season. And secondly, a player that I think could have a massive influence on this game is Roberto Firmino, because obviously he was missing from that game when we played Everton at Anfield earlier on in the season, and I think it actually showed quite a lot, because up against a defence like Everton's, where they like to sit back, you need the kind of players who like to play against that defence, you know, players who like to have the ball at their feet, like to kind of bamboozle defenders, like to put them under pressure at all times, like to overwork them as much as they possibly can, and Roberto Firmino just absolutely fits that bill. And when you look at his form over the last few months as well, he's adding a lot of goals to his game. You know, Roberto Firmino is a fantastic footballer, but the biggest criticism always was that while he is a striker and he is a number 9, he just doesn't get that many goals, doesn't finish enough chances to actually, you know, be a really good player for Liverpool in that position. And it feels like he's finally putting those doubts to bed. He is finally scoring more goals. He's finally becoming the number 9 that Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp want him to be. And I think he will have a huge influence if Liverpool are to win this game. And finally, Everton will probably be actually pretty tired going into this game, to be honest, because as we all know, Jurgen Klopp has been the king of rotation throughout this season. You know, he's made significantly more changes to his side than any other Premier League manager has. And I think the payoff is finally starting to come through. You know, we saw in the game against Leicester, the last half an hour, they were absolutely knackered. We saw it against Burnley as well. They completely exhausted themselves looking for that equaliser, and that's what led to that lapse of concentration at the end of the game, I think. And I think Everton are in a similar position where they don't really have that big a squad. They haven't been able to rotate that much, and if they don't choose to just drop all their first teamers and go with a load of academy players and second stringers for this game, then I just think they won't quite have the energy that those Liverpool players will have, as they will have benefited from all that rotation earlier on in the season. And hopefully over the course of a 90-minute match, that will show for Liverpool and help them win this tie. So that is all for today's video. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, why not give it a like? If you're new around here as well, hit that subscribe button. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days as well. Don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter, and I'll see you on Friday night after Liverpool have hopefully beaten Everton at Anfield in the FA Cup. Bye for now.